Welcome to my beginner's guide to spells. In this video, I want to explain how do spells work. Now, I think it's important if you also watch two other videos in my channel. The first one is how to increase your starting mana, and the second one is my beginner's guide to masteries. All three uh, videos connect together, and after you see all three of them, you will understand how this all works better. But currently, there are 168 spells, and with each new season, two additional spells are released. And each season lasts for 2.5 months, give or take. Now, there are a total of 5 elements. So here you can see all 168, but it's easier for me when I'm explaining a specific build to just select one color. Now, whether you copy and paste someone else's build or you create your own, I think it's important to identify how the spells work. Because sometimes you may think that one specific spell is really important for you to upgrade when it's not a priority, and vice versa. Maybe there's one spell that you can say, yeah, this is good enough, but it's a key spell for your build. So, for example, in this build, which is my blue uh, spell damage shaman, I have these 4 spells. As you can see, this one is mythical with 5 stars. This one is mythical with 5 stars. This one is mythical with 5 stars. And this one is only rare plus, so 2.5 stars. Why? Because this spell is not a priority for this specific build. This spell could be at common rarity, and its usefulness or its purpose in this build will be exactly the same, because what I want from this spell is to stun. That's it. Increasing the rarity only increases the amount of turns the enemy is going to be with this debuff, the bad juju, which I don't care at all with this build. So, how can you prioritize your spells? What is the most important one? Again, it's going to depend on each build individually. But I want to divide the spells into 3 different categories. The first one will be damaging spells. If you're using a spell damaging build, that is your nuke. That is the spell you want to deal damage with. The second group will be generators. They can be generators for uh, your specific color mana. For example, this one, it creates 7 blue gems. This is a generator for blue gems. Or they can be generators for skulls. For example, with the Necromancer, we have several spells, but specifically here we have Legion of Doom that transforms yellow gems into skulls. This is also a generator, but it doesn't generate colored gems for more mana. Instead, it generates skulls, so you can deal damage with a physical build. And then we have a third group, which is utility or support spells. For example, with blue, we have this spell, Ice Armor, that increases your armor and your resistance. And one really popular one for green is Dispel Magic. This spell that dispels a certain amount of enemy status effects with also a percentage to drain their mana. Now, spells have like let's go back to this one. Certain attributes or stats in the spells depend on their rarity. For example, this one is Legendary Plus. If we evolve it into Mythic, it increases the amount of status effects it's going to dispel. If we go to the maximum one, it will be 8 at Ancient Mythic. But you can see here the chance to drain their mana doesn't change when you upgrade this spell. So how does this number come about? Is 95%. Well, this number depends on your spellbook level. How do I know? It's very simple. Here we have a spellbook level 45. Now, let's go to a test. Level 1 character. This character has a spellbook level 1. Let's check exactly the same spell. Oops, only 51%. So the base chance for this spell is 50% plus 1 per each level of your spellbook. So in this one is 50 plus level 1 spellbook 51, while for my shaman is 50 plus the spellbook level, which is 45, for a total of 95. Now you don't need to know these numbers, okay? But if you check the same spell with a different class that has a different spellbook level and you see differences, then you know that the spellbook is going to have some impact on the spell. Now, there are certain spells that fall into more than one category. For example, this one called Snap deals damage and creates blue gems. So this spell is both category 1 and category 2. If we go to the Warlock, for example, and check Eldritch Blast, this spell falls into all three categories. It deals damage, it creates purple gems if the enemy is burning, and if the enemy is not burning, it burns the enemy, which can be considered a utility or support spell as well. But the next point is, okay, so which spells should you prioritize? Which spells are the most important ones? Again, you need to understand the role in the build for each spell. For example, for this one, you can see my Eldritch Blast is Legendary Plus, so 4.5 stars. Dark Eyes and Darkness are 5 stars, and Tentacle Slap is only 3.5. Why? Well, because Tentacle Slap is not the priority for this build. With Tentacle Slap, you want to stun. That's it. And it's true that as you increase the rarity, it increases the chance to stun, but this is 80% for each purple. This is a purple build, so red gem as well, but in this specific case, I'm using it for a purple build. So the moment you have 15, for example, 15 gems, purple gems on the board, then the chance is 120. So you don't need to upgrade this one. As a rule of thumb, and again, it's going to depend on each individual build, and not all builds are created equal, but as a rule of thumb, your priority number one should be your generators. In this case, Dark Eyes is a generator and transforms blue gems into purple, with also a chance to create more purple gems, and Darkness, which creates purple gems as well. That is the reason why these two spells are at the highest level. And this one is also very important. It also creates purple gems, but it creates, if I preview the mythic rarity, it creates only 7, whereas these two spells create 8. So these are the three important spells in this build, not the Tentacle Slap. Let me put another example, which I also have a build in my YouTube channel, which is the Nightblade Assassin. Now, this spell deals damage plus an additional percentage per purple gem on the board. You may think that this spell is the most important one in this build, that this is the spell that you need to upgrade first, because every time you upgrade it, one full star, it will increase the amount of damage per purple gem on the board. But as you can see, this one is 5 stars, this one is 5 stars, this is 4.5, and this is only 3. Why? Because I really want to have more purple gems on the board. More gems means better chance to stun and more damage. Increasing these 3 spells will increase the damage of the Nightblade way more than increasing Nightblade itself. Also, if we jump into the gear as well, having a good 2 knight set pieces, in this case I have 2 mythical ones, will have an 85% chance to create 2 purple gems when casting this spell. Again, more gems, more damage with Nightblade. So as I said, whether you copy and paste someone else's build or create on your own, and honestly, I encourage you to try your own thing, have fun with the game, create your own builds, but always understand, okay, what do I want to do? How does this build work? Certain builds you want, for example, with this one, which is a hybrid up to an extent. I have 2 generators, Swamp Water transforms blue gems into green. It also has a chance to poison, and if they are poison, disease the enemy, but this is not so important with this build. It helps, but I have other sources for poison. Then I have Channel Poison, which also generates green gems, and it also has a chance to poison. Then I have Find Weakness, which is the best green mercenary spell, which increases critical hit chance and critical hit damage, and also drains the enemy's mana. And then I have Dirty Blade, which generates skulls, so I can deal physical damage. It also deals a little bit of magical damage, in this case elemental poison damage, but that is secondary. So again, what are the important spells in this build? Your 2 green generators, so you can replenish your mana every turn, and then Dirty Blade to generate skulls. As you can see, these spells are not at a very high level because it was my first build, and right now it's abandoned. I will go back to it when I have time. Now, certain spells are really, really, really good, but they have a small print. And the small print is, yeah, this spell is not for beginners. You need certain things to make it work. So some spells only work at a very, very high level. And some spells, like for example, let me see if I can find it here. Not Poison Charm. I don't see it. Okay, here, Savage Juju. Excellent green spell for the Shaman. It deals a ton of damage, and it also inflicts bad juju, which increases an additional 25% the damage the enemy receives. Great spell, but it has one really small print here, which is 260 mana cost. This is huge. When you're starting and your masteries are very low, feeding a 260 mana cost spell is not cheap. So this is an excellent spell for a very high level build, for almost a high end build. Same, for example, here, as I showed you, Cold Snap, it deals a bit of damage and creates blue gems and has a 125 mana cost. There is also, let's see if I can find it. Yeah, Ray of Frost. It deals twice as much mana, also generates blue gems, but it has a 225 mana cost. So before you select spells, always look at the mana cost. If you don't have good equipment and good masteries, you're not going to be able to feed this. Remember that you can always change your spells later. So maybe one spell that works really well for you right now, in the future, in 1, 2, 3 months, when you have a stronger build, you can replace it with another one. But whenever you copy and paste a build from another player, always look at the small print. Sometimes those builds are very high level, and again, I'm not saying that this is a bad spell, not at all. This is a great spell, but it's a great spell with a small print that you need to consider. But as I said before, just have fun with the game, experiment. Some players want to follow the path, some players want to create their own path. But always understand what you're doing, and if your build fails, understand why it's failing and what changes do you need to do. And again, when it comes to the spells, always try to upgrade your generators as soon as possible. Sometimes they should take priority over your gear. Sometimes both things should be at the same level. Also, here you can see, well, for this one that is Rare Plus, I need 150 pages to upgrade it. For these ones that are mythical, I need 3,000 pages to upgrade it. And this is half a star. In order to get them to the highest one, I will need another 4,000, so 7,000 spell pages from mythical to ancient mythical. And that's also the reason why, for example, going back to the assassin that I showed before, that has 3 generators. Every time you increase one of the generators by 1 star, it will increase the amount of gems it creates. So it's always the best option to increase one generator, one rarity, then move on to the next one, move on to the next one, go to the first one, because as you can see, the amount of spell pages get ridiculously high. And yes, you can use one of your followers, Sion. When she gets to level 50, you can craft specific spell pages for those spells that are either class locked or generic from the main story in the game. But let me select this one, for example, but it requires 4,000 spell dust and 1 of her crystals. So yes, you can pinpoint certain spells and spend her resources on this, but it is limited. So the amount of spells that you can max out is gonna be slow. Anyway, this is the video I wanted to make. I hope it was helpful. Please like, comment, subscribe, and thanks for watching.